Good morning, everyone. Today we study the poem written by Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken. The Road Not Taken, written by Robert Frost. This is the poem. This is a poem of message. In this poem, the poet actually uses anaphora, alliteration, repetition, trochee, and the figure of speech in this poem is used metaphor, imagery, simile, personification, assonance, consonants, and parallelism. In this poem, the poet actually uses this figure of speech, and the rhyme scheme of this poem is actually A B A B. Rhyme scheme of this poem is A B B. Structurally, the poem is divided into 4 stanza, each of 5 lines. This 5-line stanza is called quatrain. This 5 lines poem or this 5 lines stanza is actually called quatrain. This poem is written iambic pentameter stanzaic form and trochaic syllables. Perhaps you can understand. So before studying the poem, we should take some knowledge of structure of this poem. I repeat again, this poem is written in 4 stanza, each of 5 lines. This each of 5 lines stanza is actually called quatrain. This poem is written in iambic pentameter, and the rhyme schemes of this poem is A B B. A B B. This is the poem. And in this poem they also used anaphora, alliteration, repetition, and metaphor, personification, simile, assonance, insonance, and parallelism also. So when we study the poem, at that times we discuss simile, personification, assonance, consonants, and parallelisms also, and the structuring pattern. At first, before studying the poem, we should come across, or we should give an knowledge of thematical idea. The thematical idea of this poem is actually, in this poem, The Road Not Taken, written by Robert Frost. Here the road is symbolized to our life actually. According to the poet, there are some paths that we do not choose in our way of life. That's why is the road not taken. Actually, in this sense, the title of this poem is The Road is Not Taken, or The Road Not Taken. Okay. Now come to the points. Actually, the road is personified here as a way of life. The poet describes his feelings about that choice, the road that he has left in the past, the paths which we choose or decide for our future and for our destination. Here the poet gives an important message that the choice that we make has an important or impact to our life of future. If we make a wrong choice, we regret it, but we cannot go back on it. So we must be wise and cool whilst we make our choice of way of life. Okay, this is the thematical idea of this poem. Okay, I again repeat, the poets here the road is personified. Here the poets actually describes the way in our way of lives. There are a divergent way or different kinds of way, but we have to choose only one. But at the end of the poems we come across that all the way is in a same type. There is no chance or no scope, there is no better option to choose the way, because all the way is full of sympathy, melancholy, problems, advantage, disadvantage, challenges, all the way. But our choice is better. There is no way that they are full of advantage, full of facilities, etc. Okay, this is the main point of this poem. Now we come to the first para or first stanza of the poem. Okay, first stanza. Here two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I couldn't travel both. And to be one traveler, long I stood and looked down one as far I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. This is the first stanza of this poem. Okay, there are 4 stanza and this is the first stanza of this poem. In this stanza the poets actually describe the road is personified, and there are 2 roads only on our way of life, both divergent in a yellow wood. Here the yellow woods actually suggest that once the poet actually here the poet actually mean that once the poet was walking down a road, and then there he faced a diversion of 2 different paths. This is why 2 paths, okay, 2 paths divergence. He had to choose only one of them. The poet here says that he was one person. He could travel on one road only. Yellow woods. Here the yellow woods the poet means a forest with leaves which are wearing out, and they have turned yellow in color, the season of autumn. Here yellow leaves, here the season of autumn. It represents a world which is full of people, where people have been living for many years, and they also represents that who are older than the poet. They are lived in the world yellow wood. In this world actually there are some peoples who are older than the poet. The poet kept standing here and looked at the path very carefully as far as he could see. Okay, and here this means one traveler, long I stood and looked down once as far as I could, to where it bends in the undergrowth. Okay, bends in the undergrowth, this is actually the poet means that before taking the path he wanted to know how it was it suitable for him or not. He was able to see the path tilts from where it curves, after which it was carved with trees and was hidden. Undergrowth, this is the dense growth of plants and bushes, means here the forest. Okay, and we come to the stanzaic pattern. Stay here, and sorry I could not travel both, and to be one traveler, Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bends in the undergrowth. This is actually called the parallelism, the literary device used in these three lines, parallelism. Okay, if I tell you what is parallelism, parallelism is actually a pattern which is used in this poem. Okay, now we come to the point here. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. This line is actually trochaic. This line is called trochaic because trochaic here trace and untrace. In this two words actually here two is untrace and roads trace. Diverge, untrace, verged, trace, or untraced trace. Untraced trace, the syllable is actually untraced traced. This is why in this pattern is called trochaic. Okay, next come to the point here also. Second line, stanza. In this stanza, then took the other as just as fair, and having to perhaps the better claim, because it was the grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the person here has to warn them really about the same. Okay, this is the second stanza. In this stanza, I mean actually here the poet uses the as just as simile. This is actually simile, which is this is the actually simile. Okay, and next come to the point. Simile. This is simile. As just as fair, it is actually simile in literary device. What is simile? A simile is a device used to compare the things with familiar things, to let the reader know it easily. There is the one simile is used in the second stanza. Actually, the second stanza, just as fair. This is the simile because it shows how the poet has linked the road less taken to the easy way through life. This is why then took the other. At first here the poets actually means the poets to choose the other way, and having perhaps the better claim. Claim means such a better option. Claim means better option, and at that time the poets thought that this way was actually better way because it was grassy. Grassy means the unused, and to wanted to wear, though as for that the passing there they had owned them really about the same, owned them out really about the same. In this here the grassy is personified. The grassy, the word grassy is here personified. What is personification? The personification when an inanimate object is personified or given life, and its activity is compared to a inanimate object or to a person like. This type is called the personification. Robert Frost here the poet has personified the road. The road is personified. At first I tell you that the road is personified, and here it stands because it was the grassy and still wanted to wear. Okay, and there comes actually the road is the a human that it wants to wear and tear. Okay, this is the main point of view. At that time we also give an important features that in the second stanza the poet actually means that the poets kept on looking at one path for a long time to check if it is a right path for him or not. Okay, if it is a right path to him or not. He adds that maybe he felt that the path was better for him, so he chose it, as it had grass on it, which means that it was unused. Here, having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy. Grassy means unused here. Not the people had walked on this path earlier. That's why this path was grassy. That is why the path was grassy. And to wanted to wear here means that it was not walked over by many people. After he had to walk on this path for some distance, he realized that both the paths had been worn out the same way. Both the paths were similar and worn out. Even in our life, we take any one path or one option, but all of them have the same benefits. Though as for the passing, they are how worn them really about the same. Here the about the same means here the same paths here use. Same paths here, benefits, disadvantage, problems, challenge. We must face them. Okay. We think that we are choosing a better option, but it is not the way that there is full benefits. Okay, in this sense the poets describe the second stanza. Now we come to the points of third stanza. And both that morning equally lay in leaves one step have trodden back. Here the trodden back means to walk over. Trodden back means walk over. Oh, I kept the first for another day. It's knowing how way leads to one to way. I doubted if I should ever come back. If I should. The first for, this is alliteration. The first for, this is actually alliteration. What is alliteration? Here the main point of view, that means actually alliteration, the same sound of the words are repeatedly used in a sentence is called alliteration. First fair, here F sound is alliteration. Okay, F sound is alliteration. Now we come to the point the third stanza. The poets here actually means that both the paths were similar that morning. Both the paths were similar that morning. Both had leaves on them, and on once they had stepped on them, as they were still green in color. They are still green in color. Okay, he decided that the day that he would take one path and to keep the other path for another day. Although he knew that the one way leads to another way. Here, oh, I kept the fast for another day. Fast for another day. Okay. Now we come to the point. Yet knowing how way leads to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I should. Here the poets knew that he could not go back on the choice that he had made. Similarly, even in our life, once we chose an option, we must keep on moving ahead with that option, and we never get a chance to come back and take the other option that we had left earlier. Here, if we left a path earlier, we do not get, even we did not get the same type path. Okay, and if there is any failure in that path, we regret for that, but we do not get the same path. Okay, now we come to the points of last stanza. I shall be telling this to with a sigh. Somewhere aged and hands, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. And that has made all the. Here, sigh means deep breath. Sigh means deep breath. Somewhere aids and aged hands. Here, this is actually assonance. This figure of speech actually is called assonance. Because what is called assonance? Assonance, the repetition of the vowel sound. Assonance, the repetition of the vowel sound, such as A and O, A and O, some, aids. Here the A is repeatedly used in a sentence. This is why it is called the assonance. After a few minutes we meet consonants in the opposite sense. The consonant, the word's consonant is repeatedly used in a sentence. It is called consonants. We get it. Okay. So I shall be telling this with a sigh, and somewhere the aids and aids the hens. Somewhere the aids and the aids hens. Here in the fourth stanza, in these lines, the poet actually says that in the future he will take a deep breath and say that once upon a time he has reached out a point in life that there were two options for him. Somewhere aids and aids in hands. He travelled to one that road which had been travelled upon by lesser number of people. Okay, two roads diverged in a wood. Lesser number of people used this, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. Okay, that has made. Here the poet actually means that the decision of his decided in future. Similarly, in future, when you grow up, then you will say that once upon a time when you were young, and you had two options. The choice that you made what you became of it. And this is a very strong message. In this line, the poet actually gives a very strong message for all the students, that you should be wise or be careful while you will make a choice. You will get two options. You will get more options, even also more options, but you have to choose only one. But when you want to choose, at that times you will be cool and wise, because this will lead you in your future, in your life. Your future depends on the choice that you make today. Okay, your future is completely depends on this way. Okay, so this is the poem. The poet actually clearly describes the road not taken. In this sense, the title is appropriate. Okay, the title is appropriate because this is a vital, sensuous, events also moralistic. This poem is clearly described in a moralistic sense. What is the message or morality here? Your future depends on the choice that you make today. Okay, so thank you to all